Hello and welcome, my friend, back to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt Schifferly with another video to help you get a more positive framework over your potential to get what you want out of your fitness habits. In the last video, I talked about why, even though it feels like you're not making much progress for a while with your diet and exercise habits, you're probably going to make a lot more progress than you think, especially once you reach a tipping point. In today's episode, I want to address one of the biggest challenges that people face, which is an acute panic, if you will, over something that happened. Like people are like, oh, I ate like crap this weekend. How do I undo the damage? Or I've been off my workouts for the past week or so. How do I get back on track? When reality is that acute occurrences very rarely hold any real influential sway. Your results on whether or not you're building muscle or losing body fat are determined much more on the average occurrence that happens over weeks or over even a month. I've even had some strength coaches say, I don't care what you do in a workout, show me the total number of push-ups you do in a month or how much weight you move in an entire week. Don't tell me you had a good workout. I don't care about that. It's your averages that matter. So let's put some numbers to this to give you some perspective. Say, for example, you're trying to manage your body fat levels and you have a 2,000 calorie diet every day for a week. So naturally, your average calorie intake for the week was 2,000 calories a day. However, let's say you had one day where you kind of overindulged a little bit and you 2,000 calories every day, but on one of the days you had 2,500 extra calories. Now that 500 extra calories, it's like, oh my gosh, I had like 3 cannolis or something after an Italian meal. How do I undo the damage? It feels like a big deal, but over the course of that week, it's not, because what that really means is you averaged about 2,071 calories per day. It's a relatively small influence, not really going to do a whole lot one way or the other. But on the other hand, if you average 2,500 calories a day, and in one day you're like, oh, I ate so clean today, I did so well, that one day of being in a caloric deficit doesn't really do a whole lot because you still averaged 2,400 calories for the entire week. Don't worry about like what you do in a workout or even for an entire week. Get to an established baseline of habits. What are you doing all the time? And this is where a lot of folks struggle when they're like on and off again with their training or they're yo-yo dieting all over the place. And it feels like you're doing a lot or losing a lot of ground in the short term, but overall not much is really happening. Let me give you another example. There was a talk given by a gentleman who lost like something like 150 pounds over 2 years or something. And he had a graph and he's like, okay, when you look at the 2-year time span, my weight measured had a very reliable kind of downward trend. You look at that and you're like, yeah, okay, sure, he lost weight in a slow and steady pace. It's like, but if you zoom in on a monthly or even weekly basis, it's like all over the place and it's absolutely impossible to spot whether or not you're making progress. So if your attention is so focused in the acute short term, you're like, oh my gosh, the scale is up, my diet's not working, abandon it. And then it goes down, it's like, yeah, I'm doing great, I deserve some extra cheesecake or something. If our attitudes and behaviors are at the whim of what happens on a daily basis and acute changes, then we run the risk of compromising the long-term progress we're trying to make. So the big lesson is acute changes to your diet and exercise habits that only last a day or a meal or even a week or so, usually in the long run are too small of an influence to really matter. And so you don't need to undo the damage. You don't need to get back on track or anything like that. You just stick to your baseline habits that were keeping you moving on a slow and steady progress forward. And that works both ways. If you have a lot of chronic bad habits that are detrimental to your results, doing something great for a week or even a month, eating clean for a few meals isn't really going to do much. It's always the amount of influence your habits have. And consistency is always the thing that ensures your bricks are going to build up into the fortification you want or erode into the weaknesses that you're trying to avoid. Be fit, live free.